it was the 1990 Super Bowl, and it involved G.I. Joe making a play for Barbie.
Hmm.
Do you remember this ad?
I do, yes.
Okay.
It sounds like it sounds like the test run of Toy Story.
A little bit of, yes, yeah, it kind of was. It may have even been the inspiration for it. I have no idea. What I do know is that most people of a certain age will never forget that commercial. And I will also let you know that it was absolutely a complete failure for Nissan
Hmm.
in that it had no impact on sales whatsoever. And so while we know that Super Bowl commercials cost 4.5 million for 30 seconds now, all it was is take it back to your inflation purposes. They paid that amount in 1990
Hmm.
for a spot that ultimately was an epic fail. And we talked about some that were really popular, and we missed one, by the way, that I can't even believe I missed, which of course was the Mean Joe Green ad for Coca-Cola.
Oh, I was ready to excommunicate you
I know,
from the
right?
Church of Steelerdom for not
I know,
mentioning that
right?
first and foremost.
So I
But
needed to get that one right out the gate. But there were others that have been huge flops, and one in particular that comes to mind more recently was one that was done by, I believe it was Ameritrade. It was one of those, online trading companies. And they had a monkey sitting in a driveway with one, it was one of those monkeys that bang cymbals. And
yeah,
underneath it, it said, we just wasted whatever, $2.5 million on this commercial. It was one of those moments where you're like, wait a minute, you're a financial advisor company.
yes. If
Why
you're
would
this bad with your
your
money,
money, yeah, why would you trust me with mine? So that was a huge error on their part. And they spent a great deal of time actually having to kind of pull back from that and rebrand themselves from sounding like the stupid people in financial advising.
I was going to say I'm a little exasperated and tired of any commercial, and I think that the Pepsi and the Doritos are the two worst offenders in this category, where our product suddenly turns you into a maniac who will take ridiculous risks to obtain our product,
Ah,
whether it's
yes.
running into traffic, walking onto ledges, punching out your best friend,
Oh, yes. You'll do anything to get your hands
yeah,
on that
it's
product.
basically
Yes.
saying our product, which by the way, I've had Pepsi, I've had Doritos. They're perfect. Pepsi's terrible, but it's fine. But it's not like oh,
Send
I
those letters
are
to
my best
Jim
friend.
Gary.
Yeah, what would you do for a Klondike bar? Well, if it involves putting body parts in your freezer, that
I'm not
product should
doing
not be
it.
for sale.
So
Somebody
there are limits.
products. There are people who won't do that for crack cocaine, and yet apparently, and we're all supposed to laugh. And the other thing also is that physical humor and the idea of the dad got kicked in the crotch, or
Well, apparently, some of the ads this year are going to be much more dad friendly. So I'll be very curious to talk about this with you after the game and see exactly how you feel about the dad friendly segments because it is my understanding and some of the previews that I've seen. Again, I'm going to throw some of these commercials up on our Facebook page. So if you see them during the Super Bowl and want to catch them again or you just want to catch them in advance, they'll be there. But they're apparently focusing on, the stay at home dad as a positive in some of these commercials. So that'll be good to see, right?
I mean, I watch with an open mind. I'm looking forward to it. Anything where it doesn't involve the bumbling dad accidentally falling into a wood chipper. Or something like that. I kind of feel like we've run out the.
So you're anti wood chipper, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Fargo, not like a good no.
yeah. The attempted shock value for the oh my goodness, this product that is
Well, speaking of shock value,
yes.
one of the huge controversies is always the halftime show. And there used to be great halftime shows. And then, of course, there was Nipplegate
Mm.
because this country puts gate after everything, even though Watergate was the name of the hotel. If Watergate happened today, it would be Watergate Gate. But neither here nor there. Nipplegate with Janet Jackson, and what I thought was possibly the most disappointing halftime show of all time. I was not shocked by the fact that I saw her nipple per se. I was shocked that they blew a perfect opportunity to have the best halftime show ever. For those who are unfamiliar, they had Nelly on there, they had Sean Murphy Lee, and they had Janet Jackson, and the song Shake Your Tail Feather was hugely popular, where they actually refer to her in a line as like a young Janet Jackson live in living color. And they could have had her pop up through this. This is what I had been imagining all week. Like that they were going to have this big collab and she was going to be there and Justin Timberlake and it was going to be the best halftime show ever. And they just blew it. And I was disgusted. So that was one of my most disappointing. Shockingly, I'm not a fan of the band U2's recent work, but I thought they did a beautiful job during the post 9/11 Super Bowl.
They knew what the moment called for, and
yes.
It did that. So, Katy Perry, high hopes, medium hopes.
Well, again, after Nipplegate, since we got stuck with all those octogenarians. And everyone talked about, well, last year we had Bruno Mars. I was like, well, if we had Bruno Mars this year, at least he could do that one song that he does that I like. Uptown Funk. I didn't like anything he did last year, so I was not impressed. He just reminds me of someone who belongs in Vegas. I do have moderately high hopes for Katy Perry. One, because she's a stadium performer. And two, because she does a lot of anthem songs. So it's, she's not necessarily known for her sappy love songs. She's got some pretty upbeat, get the crowd bouncing songs. Bouncing.
Yeah.
None
Firework roar.
No pun intended on the bouncing, by the way. But, and so with Firework and some of the other, and Roar, honestly, she's got a lot of these anthem-y kind of songs that I think, hopefully, if all goes well, will be a good show. What always scares me are these random, guests, special guests that are going to pop up and the type of collaborations that they try to create. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're horrifying. So, but there's alternative programming at halftime. So some people don't even watch the halftime show anymore. They can watch like the Puppy Bowl. Is the Lingerie Bowl still out there?
That's a good question. Now, having established my view on breasts during the Super Bowl.
Obviously, you're out on that, but I bet some of our listeners will know.
Yeah, I guess there's that. I was kind of intrigued.
This is becoming the Jim Hates Boobs episode.
I'm staunchly pro boobs.
I think he just doesn't like distraction, which is a fair take. You're going to have boobs. Don't give me anything else to think about while you're giving me boobs. I'm with you, Jim. I'm on your side, Jim.
I have sufficient respect for breasts to believe that they deserve my undivided attention.
I see.
That I don't believe that they are something you should mix with other things, other priorities. They deserve to be prioritized by themselves. But yeah, I was going to say I think one of the most intriguing efforts at counter programming came back in the Mesozoic era when In Living Color, the sketch comedy show, was on. And it was back when Jim Carrey was on it. And
when it was good, yes. Yeah. And J-Lo was a fly girl back in the day.
That's right. For that 15 minutes, it was actually a funny show. Almost literally a 15 minutes. They started. It was not on. The Super Bowl was not on Fox that year, and they announced that the moment they were going to do the show live, the moment the halftime show began, they would begin the show, and all of their sketches would finish right before the second half kickoff. And I remember thinking, why don't more networks try doing something like that? To say, look, you get the singer, and inevitably a bunch of anchors saying, well, let's talk about what you just saw.
Right.
And here's an ex player to say, well, I really think the offense has to score more points, the defense has to stop the other guy from scoring more points, and we all kind of nod sagely. That's the strategy right there. So.
Well, the counter programming argument is a good one, in the sense that certainly they can offer, and some stations and cable stations specifically do. That's why we have the Puppy Bowl, Lingerie Bowl, and I'm sure there's some others out there that I'm missing. And listeners, please feel free to fill us in either on the SoundCloud page or on our Facebook page, which it's facebook.com/Jim and Mickey Show. Feel free to leave comments there and links and anything else that we should be aware of that we may have missed on this segment, because as you know, the Super Bowl has a long and varied history. We're on year 59. And I'm hoping, of course, that my Steelers make it back, or for 49 rather. And I'm hoping 49, excuse me. And I'm hoping that my Steelers make it back there for 50. But that's why we always say there's always next year, I suppose. And coming up in the next segment, we're going to take a small little break from football because Jim has some issues right now that he needs to get off his chest.
Boy, I'll say.
And if we don't talk about it, no pun about him getting them off his chest intended either. But, if we don't talk about them, I fear he could explode before the week is out. So I'm Mickey White. He's Jim Garrity, and we'll be right back.
Any place, any time is a good time for Coke.
Only Coke, refreshing new feeling, refreshing new feeling, refreshing new feeling. Coca-Cola's bright and lively, Coca-Cola has more zest, Coca's a lot more zest in living. Refreshing zest, only Coca-Cola gives you that refreshing new feeling, refreshing new feeling, refreshing new feeling. Coca-Cola gives you that refreshing new feeling. Coca-Cola refreshes best.
Something strange in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call?
Welcome back to the Jim and Mickey Show. I'm Mickey White, and I am here with my very distraught, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but it certainly feels like the right word, co-host Jim Garrity, who has been rocked by the news this week that they will be rebooting, and by rebooting we mean remaking exactly kind of, 2 of his favorite movies. And they're all going to be coming out soon. Jim, how you feeling?
Sure. Well, let's begin with one. The one that we know is certain, which is that they are rebooting Ghostbusters, one of the all-time, classic action comedies. It's going to be featuring an all-female cast, including Melissa McCarthy, who people may remember from Bridesmaids, and a lot
It's
of
like
much
half of the Bridesmaids cast, right? Kristen Wiig too.
Yeah, Kristen Wiig, and then 2 of the cast members of Saturday Night Live. Which I'm just pessimistic about that one. I guess it might be good. I don't look at Ghostbusters as something that needed to be continued. I think a core part of the heart of that movie comes from the chemistry amongst those lead actors. Harold Ramis passed away last year, and it just seems a bit exploitative to just take the concept and put in new actors and hope.
What about the argument that it's better that they redo it completely with females and hopefully rewrite the script versus doing it without Ramis and Bill Murray?
I was going to say, could you just take a good concept and put those 4 actresses in it? And does it have to be Ghostbusters? Can it just be some other concept? Because this is just trading on, Generation X nostalgia.
True.
For this, and look, maybe it could be good. I'm not gonna that one. I'm just wary about the other.
Why don't
one,
you get to the one that makes
the one that really
blow
is sticking to my craw? Mickey. So the rumor is that Chris Pratt, the star of Guardians of the Galaxy and Parks and Recreation, and one of the rising stars of Hollywood, will be taking over the role of Indiana Jones. Disney has bought the rights from Paramount, and they want to make new Indiana Jones movies, casting him as that. A little while back, there was a rumor that Bradley Cooper would be taking over the role. I can summarize my perspective on this, Mickey, by quoting, well, let's face it, every George Lucas character ever made. I've got a bad feeling about this. It's not the years, it's the mileage. Dave, I can quote Raiders of the Lost Ark all day long.
I was going to say, really? Because we're just going to turn this into a quote off. I'll just sit here, I'll chill out, drink my coffee. You guys continue.
So when you take a date to see the new Indiana Jones movie and it's awful, are you going to look at each other and go, bad dates?
Well, my attitude, Dave, come on. If they end up remaking with Chris Pratt, you know what we have to do, right? Dave, don't look at it. Shut your eyes. Keep your eyes closed.
Look away, Marion.
Dave, do you understand what the Indiana Jones franchise is? It is a radio transmitter with the power of God, okay?
All right, you two, rein it in. And then listen to me being the voice of freaking reason this morning. All right, why is it so bad that Chris Pratt makes the new Indiana Jones? What is the problem with that? Because let's face it, you know what I know, which is that I'm going to get to see him half naked again. And I don't really have a problem with that either. Right, but continue.
By Chris Pratt. I think he's a very likable actor, very likable presence. And, the previous rumor that Bradley Cooper, now clearly one of the toasts of Hollywood with the phenomenal success of American Sniper, they're all good guys. Nathan Fillion. It's that this is Harrison Ford's role. This is his iconic. He did this. These images are seared into the audiences. And if you want to do an Indiana Jones style adventure, whether it's the Tomb Raider, there's the Uncharted video game series, there's room in this world for a great action adventure movie. Just don't take this character. Don't put a new guy in the fedora and the